What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back to Tuffy Talks live show. We're so glad to have you guys joining in and tuning with us. And feel free to send some comments our way so we can talk about anything that's on your mind from NC State the last week or any sport in general, or maybe it's not even NC State. Maybe we can talk about some other stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But we are kind of on like a two-man team tonight. It's me and Michael here. Obviously the two best guys. No, I'm kidding.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Really serious about that. But no, I'm kidding. Leighton, Greg, and Mackenzie are away tonight, so we're just holding down the fort for them. But man, it's been a really, I think, when depending on how you look at which team and which sport, really great week. An outlook on the teams on men's basketball, really head scratching, frustrating, confusing how we're playing on women's basketball. And the funny thing is, it's all ironic because you wouldn't have thought that at the beginning of the season. So what do you think, Michael?
Yeah, certainly not. At this point, I expected our men's team to be better this year than they were last year. I mean, it was hard to have been worse than last year, but I wouldn't have guessed in January they would have a better ACC record than the women's team, but here we are. Yeah.
No, I definitely think we need to talk about both those teams, and there's some other sports to talk about as well. But I want to focus on men's basketball right now because that's probably the one people are mostly interested in right now, and honestly, the one that has the best outlook is most positive. And I can't believe we're saying that again. It's just State has 4 losses on the season. They have 14 wins. And, they had a whole week to rest coming off that game against Virginia Tech. And that was a great week, getting a win against Duke and Virginia Tech. I actually didn't even get the comments. I was on the show last week. But you get a whole week off. Now you've played Miami, and huge overtime win for State. That's the number 16 team in the country. Miami is, which is kind of interesting. But it's at the top. It's a quad 1 win or a quad 2 win, I think is what that was. Still a solid resume win. And you did it. And with I think the biggest highlight of the game was Ernest Ross. And it wasn't like he did anything that was like really flashy. Wasn't anything like he was, sinking threes or taking step back jumpers or putting up some dunks. Most of his plays were cleanup plays. What do you think about that, Michael?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was by design, where the coaches kind of wanted him to play. He played more along the baseline, under the basket.
Yep.
I don't know if that was by design or it just ended up that way. But it worked out really well. With him and DJ Burns, because DJ Burns, is a threat to score every time he touches the ball. So Miami double teamed him sometimes, and that left Ernest Ross open, like right under the basket he had a couple dunks, and then also he was great on the boards, especially offensive rebounds. I think he had, at least 6 or 8 of his points came on offensive rebounds, including the eventual game winner, which was a huge rebound. He just was surrounded by 3 Miami guys, just went up and got it and put it up for a layup, which ended up being the difference in the game.
I mean, you look at Ross's stat line, and he sometimes, when I watch Ernest play, he looks like he's kind of sometimes, like, I don't say like he doesn't know what he's doing, but he kind of comes out there like sometimes it's like he doesn't. He's jacking up a 3. He does not need to ever shoot, and
didn't take any threes against Miami.
No, but my point is, though, like he was 8 for 10. That guy shot 80% against Miami. I mean, nobody saw that coming, and it wasn't like he was doing anything super like flashy. But when DJ was getting double teamed, that I think it also kind of ties into DJ, because he's like, he's making really, he's being very self-aware of how he's getting doubled, and somebody's got to be open here. So, or there'd be a drive to the basket by like Terquavian or Casey, and Ernest was there. A lot of it was just effort plays, being willing to do that kind of dirty work. And you mentioned rebounds. He had 9 rebounds on 8 for 10 shooting. His free throws were terrible. He was 1 for 5, but he hit the one at the very end.
Yeah.
That was the most important free throw. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was tough because the game couldn't have. He won the game, but he also almost lost it at the free throw line. But
Right. But you look at the other stat lines here. I'm just kind of looking back here. So your leading scorer was Terquavian.
Yep.
20 points, 3 rebounds. He had, I think it was 2 assists, 2 steals. Nice stat line. He wasn't his normal self at 3-point shots. He was 2 for 9 there. Still took a high volume, a number of shots on the field. He was 7 for 20 there. But then Ernest Ross was your second leading scorer at 17 points.
Mm-hmm.
You get down to DJ, who, again, even though they doubled him, he still got 13. And I think we need to talk about
triple-double.
Yeah, he had 9 rebounds and 13 points and 7 assists.
Yeah.
So a lot of those assists. I mean, I feel like State has to run their offense completely through him now. They are best when they run it through DJ. And I know Terquavian is your star player. Jarkel had 11 points. Casey kind of had the little injury there. I think it might have kind of played into him only getting 8. But I feel like State has to play through DJ because I think Coach Keats put it in a unique way when he worded it that he said he might be the most unique big man in the country. His size, more so when he's talking about his weight, right?
Yeah.
In his girth, if you will. And it's like he has soft feet, he has soft hands, he's making shots where he's not only hitting hook shots off the glass, he's got some a little bit Hakeem Olajuwon, how he kind of makes some post moves he does there. I mean, he's not no dream shake or anything like that, but it's nice post moves he's got there. He has a repertoire, you could even say, but he's making the passes. So it's like, and he's getting rebounds. So he's got an all around game. Yeah.
And his weight is obviously mentioned a lot because he's a big dude. I mean, 275. He can't play all 40 minutes, but I think that size really is a reason why he's so good around the basket, because he can kind of clear out space with that. Like he'll back somebody down and then just do a little spin move, and all of a sudden he's right near the basket just because he takes up so much space and can use his body to shield the defender away and get off a shot or a pass like we saw on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think to Benjamin's question there, has DJ got another year of eligibility left? He does.
So yeah.
So he could run it back next year. You never know with NIL nowadays, but it seems like he's loving it right now. He's getting some recognition, I think, at this point. And I think now that you've got this win against Miami, you've got a win against Duke, Virginia Tech, and Miami. Duke was ranked. I don't think Virginia Tech was. Virginia Tech's not ranked, but Miami. So it's 2 ranked wins in the last week and a half. 3-0 in the last week and a half, in much needed games. And I feel like with Miami, it was kind of like, okay, you beat Duke and Virginia Tech in the same week. You got a week off.
Yeah,
that was my concern. Is are we just be able to cool off? Are we going to be cooling off there and not being able to, we were so hot, maybe a break is actually not the best thing for State, but it showed that I think this team is legitimately a good team. I mean, to me, that's why I see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was listening to another podcast. They were actually talking about the NFL and how the 1 seed gets the bye and how it's kind of like, is that an advantage or a disadvantage? Because you have that 2 weeks off, and like, are you going to, lose some of that momentum, which football is obviously different because it's a way more physical game.
Right.
But they had a former player on. He was like, no way. Like, I mean, you use, like, if you can't get up for a game after just a week off, like,
what's the point?
It's better to have that rest, heal up some of the guys if they have any nagging injuries. And obviously it didn't affect us either for having that week off. So yeah, that was good to see. Yeah, so and I think Aaron's comment there with being undefeated in 2023, I didn't really think about that. I mean, maybe this is our year, guys. Maybe this is our year.
So I'm not going to jinx or anything like that and say anything more than that, but it's um, interesting. And they are playing Syracuse, I think, right now. And to Nathan's point, they are not looking so hot. I'm trying to even look up the score.
I forgot they were playing.
But that's a interesting game because I'm kind of going back, nice transition there to the rest of the ACC big picture.
Mm-hmm.
There is the one seed team right now, who is Clemson, 7-0. That's never happened. It's arguably Clemson may be in the best year they've ever had in basketball, guys. We may be living in that world this year that Clemson is having the best year they've ever had in basketball.
It's by their record, that is. I think when they were 6-0, that was the first time they ever started 6-0. So I mean,
my question
maybe they've had more talented teams, but they've never started off this well.
Right. And who have they played? I know they played Duke. They've played us.
Yeah, it's not like they've been beaten up on the bottom of the conference. Yeah.
Right. Not a cakewalk for them. So legit teams they've been winning against, and they beat Pitt, right? Didn't they beat Pitt? Yeah, they did. They played a week ago. So they've played the top teams, I would argue. So you got that, but my point then after that is there's a 5-way tie going into the day for the second place spot. And obviously overall record kind of filters through that and makes, gives each team their actual standing there. But you had 5 teams with a 5-2 record, and 2 of those teams are Syracuse and Miami, and they're playing right now. So that's going to, I think once you get through this week, you're going to see a little bit more shakeup there. But NC State is right there, 1 game behind second place, you could argue.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that. I mean, if they were to get this win against Georgia Tech, say 2 or 3 of these teams in that top ACC, maybe they lose this week.
Mm-hmm.
I would not think it's out of the possibility that State could be a top 5 team in the ACC by the end of this week if they can find a way to win against Georgia Tech. I just find that just crazy to think, and maybe it comes back to State being healthy and having the talent, but
you could argue we're not healthy right now. I mean, you're down Jack Clark and Dusan, who've been starting the whole year.
That's a great point too, Michael. Yeah. So it's like, maybe we just are good.
Maybe they're just good.
And what's the difference to me is what's the difference? Is it point guard play and center play? In my mind, it has to be.
It has to be. I mean, like, you were losing that position pretty much every night last year. I mean, I guess you had Sebron at the point, and he would win a lot of those battles, but he's not like a point guard.
Right.
Like, they put him at point because he was the best option, but and then especially at center with Jalen Gibson and Dewana, I mean, you got nothing out of them last year. So yeah, I think it's pretty much it's as simple as that. You have a really good senior point guard, and now 2 really good centers at the 5 position, and Burns, who's probably one of the top centers in the ACC, if not the country.
Yeah, let me ask this: who would be the better center in the ACC? I mean, Baycott. People probably go to him. And by the way, didn't he just get injured?
He did a couple games ago, but he played their last game.
So Virginia, he got injured. Saturday, he got injured really early against UVA, so I guess he's back.
Yeah,
okay,
he's back. Yeah.
And just a score recap here. I'm going to just tune in because I'm looking at the comments here. I think the game against Syracuse, the score was 53-44. It's 55-44 Syracuse right now in Coral Gables with 15 minutes left. But yeah, go ahead, Michael. What were you saying there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 3 top guys are Baycott, PJ Hall from Clemson, and Burns. I mean, I don't know. Without looking at stats, just off the top of my head, those seem to be the top 3.
Yeah, I think people like Filipowski from Duke, but I don't think it's been enough there where you're kind of like, I don't know if I would call him the best. And I think some people like the Boston College center. I can't remember his last name.
Post.
Yeah. He's kind of like maybe he's their MIP, their most important player for them. It sounds like maybe. But yeah, I can't really. I know Florida State's usually got some centers, but I don't hear they're losing so much.
Yeah.
Louisville's garbage, so that's not them. Don't really hear anything about Notre Dame or Wake Forest. So I think it might be those 3 guys, and I really think there's some. I'll tell you what. On Saturday when State plays UNC, which I don't want to look ahead so much there, that is going to be a really fun matchup to watch. It's going to be DJ Burns against Amado Baycott because Baycott is a rebounding machine, and DJ Burns doesn't hardly miss at times.
Yeah.
It seems like he could miss. He could have a bad night, but I think it's going to be a really fun matchup to watch.
Yeah, and I think there's the potential of getting Doosan back by Saturday. I think
hearing some rumors.
You're right at it. Well, you're right at about. He had the same injury last year at Utah, and you're right at about the same time frame, that 5 to 6 weeks where he came back. Probably the second time you re-injure it is worse. But yeah, around it's possible he could play on Saturday as well, which would be really big. He probably won't play like as much as he did before, but 5-10 minutes, being that rebounder to match Baycott, because I mean Burns is a decent rebounder, but again he's still a little bit limited because of his size. So yeah, that would be big.
So what are your thoughts about this Georgia Tech matchup coming up tomorrow night, Michael? It's for those who are listening in, it's January 17th at 7:00 against Georgia Tech. They are the 14 seed right now in the ACC. They're 8-9, so they're a sub 500 team. NC State's gonna be on the road, like I said. NC State's a 5.5 point favorite right now.
Okay, I didn't know 5.5,
and it'll be on the ACC network. What are your thoughts about that matchup?
Well, Keats has struggled against Georgia Tech. I think the first win he got against them was last year with the team that was last in the ACC. He ended up beating Georgia Tech for the first time in his 6 years. Right. But I don't know. I mean, it at this point, it's like we should win. I mean, 5.5 point favorite, the way we've been playing.
Right.
But again, you've got that UNC game looming on Saturday. You don't want to look ahead to that one. Yeah. It is on the road. Obviously, road games in the ACC are never easy. It's a game we should win, but you never know.
Yeah. I think it would be. I don't think State's actually. I don't think there's a reason for them to feel motivated to look past this game. If you look at the recent rankings that came out this week, NC State, if you look at it, they're ranked 26th. Yeah. So they were 4 votes behind Arkansas, I think was the team, who was 25th. So the State received 111 votes to be in the top 25. Arkansas got 115 votes. So State, I think, has reason to be motivated to focus on Georgia Tech, and they're not a good Georgia Tech team. They're leading their best player, for those who want to follow along on that is their guard Miles Kelly. He's number 13 for them. He's averaging about 13.9 points per game, so a little under 14 points a game at 30 minutes. He's got 3 rebounds. He shoots about 40%, but he's got a really good shot from 3. He shoots over 40% from 3. And then you've got a couple guys, Debo Coleman and Lance Terry, that are really good players for them. But I mean, Miles Kelly's their best player at the guard position. Yeah. So I think you're gonna have to see your guards defend well. Maybe it's a good game for KC to be defending well, Jarkel Joyner to do well there. But I think this is what State should win. I think I don't feel like this one's going to sneak up on State.
No.
So I think if they can get this win, they wouldn't be ranked going to play Carolina, and I don't think Carolina would be either. But you've got a fringe top 25 matchup there, and that'll be very interesting. I think this is actually a year I could see State beating them. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to, but I wouldn't be surprised if State did this year, because I think State's guards, they're really electric, and I know Carolina is, they have moments where they're trying to figure it out, trying not to. They did lose to UVA. And who did they say they last played, Michael?
Louisville.
Louisville. Well, there you go. So, I think these matchups for NC State men's basketball are pretty big. I just think they need to be playing through DJ Burns. I think they need to, make sure Casey is healthy. Whatever's going with his arm there, and
I think he'll be okay. I mean, he ran into a screen, came out for a little bit, but then came back in and shot the ball. I mean, he looked okay. I think probably just sore.
Right. But I would just say again, like to Aaron's point, let's just take care of business tomorrow and focus then on Saturday. But having said that, I'm going to shift gears here to the next team we're talking about, where it's not going to be as optimistic. And we're talking about women's basketball. Well, actually, let me take a step back here. Michael, I want to go back to men's basketball real quick. So there was a point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Would you have thought NC State basketball would be ahead in the rankings of UNC and Duke in conference play? I would have been like, no, that's not happening this year.
I mean, I always thought this team, once Traquavion Smith said he was coming back in May, I guess that was, I always thought this team could be good. I didn't know how good. I expected, like everybody, UNC to be better again. I mean, they brought back everyone who took the team to the national championship.
Right.
So, I expected us to be up there. Maybe not ahead of UNC and Duke at this point, but
right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, State is 7th.
Yeah.
Carolina is 8th.
I think we're all tied.
Carolina's 8th. And if you look at the rate, they have to peg them in order. They might be tied, but the overall record's a little different. It's like NC State at 7, UNC at 8th, and Duke at 9th, I think.
9, yeah.
Anyways, I just thought I was like, wow, that's progress, I guess.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
But now I'll get over to women's basketball. So, sorry for that flip flop there, guys. But the women's team, speaking of UNC, fell out on the road at UNC. Scores 56-47. I honestly, I didn't get to watch the game because I was preoccupied, but it was an ESPN game, and I mean, State just didn't look. It looked kind of flat to me. I don't know if you thought that, Michael, but what were your thoughts? Did you get to watch the game?
No, because I was traveling also, but I was following along, and I mean, it's not the first time that they've come out like that this season. I mean, obviously they've lost 4 ACC games so far. Right. But they were leading. I mean, they were up by 1 going into the 4th. So you had the lead. You just had to, finish it off in the last 10 minutes, and then ended up losing by 9. I think a lot of people have talked about it, that there's last year, obviously with Kanane Perez and Kayla Jones, you lost a lot of that leadership. Like, some of these younger guys like Diamond Johnson and Sanaya Rivers maybe more talented than those 3 that left. Right. But, seems like nobody's really stepped up to be in that leadership role. Michelle makes a good point. They don't seem to have the energy and togetherness that the men do, which again is something I didn't think we'd be saying.
Ironic, right? It's like, what the heck's going on here? It seems like you would be saying the other way around. Yeah, I'm looking here, and it's now, women team had figured out they're up there 3. They've lost 3 of the last 4. They've lost 4 of the last 6. That's not a typical Westmore team, and they've got matchups coming up Thursday night against Miami at home. They've got a matchup Sunday against Louisville on the road.
Both those will be tough. I mean,
right. We're talking about Louisville basketball. Miami is no cheap team either, but then it doesn't get any easier. You got to play Notre Dame. You got to play on the road at Georgia Tech, who was pretty good last year, and I don't know where they are this year, but I think they're still pretty good. Virginia Tech right after that. It's not going to be easy for the women's team moving forward. So they need to figure this out. And
they had it wasn't. It was a defensive battle yesterday. I mean, neither team really shot that well.
No,
but State especially, I think they shot 29%. I mean, like I said, I didn't watch the game, so I didn't really see if they're getting open looks and not hitting them, or just not being able to get to the basket. But yeah, that's tough. You're not going to win. You're not going to win in a game shooting 29%. I mean,
yeah. Talking to add to that, they shot just over 20% on 3-pointers, and that's a big part of their offense. I mean, they do the 4-out, 1-in kind of scheme. A lot of emphasis on the guards and outside shooting. And you compare that in the fourth quarter, you tell us where they lost. They were shooting just over 30% in the fourth quarter. Honestly, that wasn't so bad. They shot terribly in the first quarter. They were shooting 20%. But the good thing is UNC shot, a little over 20% too. So they both were not shooting that well. When you compare fourth quarter, we're talking, this is the difference. So State was 5 of 16, which is a little over 30%. And UNC was 7 of 12, which is just under 60%. And you're talking little less than double the amount of shooting. UNC scored 25 points in the fourth quarter to NC State's 15. I mean, that's a 10-point difference when you're having a pretty close game. I think in the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter, going in the fourth, it was a pretty even matchup. That would be like, what? 32-31, I think is the score, was NC State. And you're just not getting the right, enough, offense there. So they're going to figure that out. I really think that 3-point shooting's got to be better. I think to Michelle's point, like you were saying, there's not a lot of energy and togetherness. So I think it's in their heads, right? Like we're losing, what's going on, and motivation,
right? Because the team hasn't lost that much in the last 3 years. I think this is the first time they've been under 500 in ACC play since 2018. So like 5 years ago.
Wow, I didn't realize that's a good stat.
Yeah. But Wes Moore's one of the best coaches in the country. There's as much talent on our roster as pretty much everybody besides maybe UConn. So it's not like, it's not out of the question that this team could turn around and be really good and make a run. But right now it's not a great outlook.
Yeah. That's something they're going to figure out there. But I think I don't really know much more to say to that. I think they need to figure that out. But so I think we're going to shift over here, Michael, to any other sports that you have in mind that you wanted that we need to talk about.
Yeah. So plug our newsletter here. So we've got a newsletter. It goes out weekly, kind of gives you a recap on all the sports. Not just like basketball and football, but all the non-revenue and Olympic sports too. What they did last week, what games are coming up this week. So we had some more Olympic sports and non-revenue sports started their season this past week. Swimming and diving. Let's see. Swimming and diving faced Duke. Both teams won against Duke. So, I mean, we know they've been, especially the women's team, has been good the last couple of years. So good start there. Both teams won an ACC matchup. Wrestling's been they've been in their season. They're 10-0 on the season. Last Friday night, they won 30-6 over Army. Leighton's been covering that a lot. You may have seen some of the videos. He's done interviews with Coach Pop and some of the wrestlers. It's on our YouTube.
And for those who don't wear it, I think you'll start seeing us being able to get involved some more with these non-revenue sports, getting some interviews in if we can get those. But I think you'll for you guys there, you'll start seeing us do that a little bit more often. Michelle asked in the comments, Michael, how do we get the weekly newsletters?
I will put the link here. That's probably the easiest thing to do. So it comes out every Monday morning. It's usually I write it Sunday night. comes out Monday morning in your email.
Is something you have to subscribe to, Michael?
Yeah. So we have subscribe, and it's $5 a month, or you can pay ahead of time, $50 for the year, and you'll get the subscription there. I think it's well worth it. Like I said, it covers every single sport that's active that week, so you don't have to go to WOLFPACK.com and go to each individual page. You'll just get it all right there.
A one-stop information kind of thing. Yeah, I'm looking back at the wrestling. They like I said, they're undefeated on the season, and they're pretty much crushing the teams they're going up against. Biggest matchups, so like it was Lehigh and Northern Iowa, but getting wins against Binghamton and Army is big. I think next week or Friday is one of the biggest matchups, and they get them early. But they're going up against Virginia Tech and Blacksburg for the wrestling team, and that's a huge matchup for those who aren't aware. Honestly, it's pretty much NC State, UNC, and Virginia Tech and ACC, and that's about it. The other teams there's other respectable teams, but those guys, Pitt's up there, yeah. But that's gonna be a big one. And if you want to watch a wrestling match, the two I would say Virginia Tech, and UNC. Those are the ones to watch. So if you Friday evening and you got the time, definitely figure out a way to get. I don't know if they even are putting that on television.
I think they usually stream them like on the ESPN app. So don't quote me, but I know they've had them on there, especially the ACC matches. They usually have them on there, so they're not like on regular TV or anything. But if you go online, you can usually stream them through there.
Yeah, so you've got State won the last time they met up last year. I think this trying to look back at the results here from that game or that matchup. They won 21-10, I think is what it was, and that was number 4 NC State going up against number 7 Virginia Tech, and they won 21-10, so they won pretty soundly there. But yeah, this matchup in Blacksburg is going to be big, guys, for the wrestling team. I think you mentioned tennis starting up. Yep. Both tennis teams are in the top 25, guys. I think even top 20 nationally. And I know we don't hardly ever anywhere I hear about any fans talking about tennis, but guys, I mean, you're talking about a tennis team, women's, who the doubles won national championship last year.
Yeah.
And they can't be that expensive to go to. So I would love to see us fans embracing tennis right now because they've earned it just as much as we were embracing wrestling and we're embracing swimming and diving and track and field. You had Caitlin Toohey win the national title last year. You've got some dynasties in those 3 sports. You got something pretty special, I think, brewing over in tennis. So I think we need to be checking those sports out, guys. I know there's like a little gap right now, and you've got basketball right now, and baseball's coming up. But I'm personally more interested in tennis. I'm like when even when I was a student there, I didn't go to a tennis match ever. So might need to now.
And men's team won their match. I think they actually had 2 matches like Friday and Saturday against UNCG. They just played UNCG twice and won both. So they're 2-0. The women's tennis team, they went to one of those, it was in Miami. It was kind of where a bunch of teams go. So it doesn't go on their official record, but they faced off against Texas, who's number 1, Miami, who's number 11, and Vanderbilt, who's number 20. They won some of those and lost some, just whether it was singles or doubles, but had a good showing by all accounts down there. So yeah, it's like you were saying, those are some programs on the come up.
Yeah. I don't know. Are there any other updates here? I mean, there's not a lot of things with football, I feel like right now. You're kind of in the down season right now, and your transfers are, obviously talk about Brandon Armstrong, and he's committed to the team right now. I actually saw a picture where they had, I think, D'Antonio Burnett had the team of the off season, whatever it was that, they have all their guys and they were flexing, and you could see was like, that's Brennan Armstrong right there. So he's
he
already in
sticks
there.
out a little bit with the with the orange hair.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't really know. We just got off of recording a podcast, guys. You can tune in to check it out at some point with West Virginia. They have a guy called Kuz's Corner that I got to go on and talk about Devin Carter and what they're going to be getting in Devin Carter. So we'll see that posted at some point in the next in a little bit of future. But I don't know. There's a ton that go on football.
Yeah. Aaron mentioned baseball starts. That'll be starting in the next couple of weeks. We've seen some pictures of the field renovations, which I don't know the timeline there, but there's still not a field out there. So hopefully that's done in time. All just kind of gravel right now, it looks like, but I don't know how long that'll take, but that's exciting. If they can get that field in, I think that's the last thing they really have to do for the renovations.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I was thinking about here going back. I saw baseball actually has all of their season tickets sold out. I think Greg even got season tickets. And side note, for those who know, Greg drives from like Virginia every time he comes down, guys, like Northern Virginia area. So he is a big time State fan, loves State, but just I don't even realize that he loves some State like that. I was thinking back to the renovations there. I think about the renovations with the football team stuff. The equipment is gearing up here for NC State, and I'm looking forward to that. I think someone mentioned there's a rumor floating around. I think I saw one of the comments about there's a rumor floating around they might have to play the baseball season in Team Park. I don't know what that is.
Commented that on here, yeah.
I don't know if that's the Salamanders, the Holly Springs Salamanders baseball park. I know they're practicing there right now. I can't remember which comment I saw that in. But
Benjamin said it earlier when we first got on. But
yeah,
hopefully they don't have to do that and it's ready.
Right.
But
you want it to be done right. That's what matters most.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
But regardless, it'd be fun. And then I think we might wrap this up a little bit early, guys. It's been kind of a down thing, I think, but basketball is king right now. It's something that we're going to really focus in on. We again road matchup tomorrow night at 7:00 against Georgia Tech, and we mentioned the Syracuse Miami game tonight. There's another big game going on tomorrow night too after NC State. If you guys are late night owls, they got another matchup. It's Clemson versus Wake Forest. Typically in most years doesn't really seem to be one that might interest fans, but you're talking about the number one team in the ACC going up again, a team that is tied for that second place spot. And I'll tell you what, we said Miami didn't look so good, but Miami has closed the gap. It's 61-58 right now with 7.5 minutes left. See if Miami can get the win over Syracuse or vice versa tonight. But that Wake Forest Georgia Tech game tomorrow, Wake Forest Clemson game tomorrow night, is interesting. And it's also interesting because Wake Forest is favored in that game, even though Clemson's undefeated in ACC. Yep. So it says here Clemson's first and Wake Forest is fourth. So I think we might wrap it up, guys. And I know Aaron's saying go Miami. Yeah, we haven't played Syracuse yet, so definitely go Miami. And I think Michelle, you point out there, women's gymnastics. We didn't talk about gymnastics. Has won lost some matchups. I saw they had a stat that they put up where they went to UNC for their meet, and they had the highest scoring they've ever received for a season opener, I think was the wording there. And good start for them in that regard. I wonder what their matchups are right here. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick.
And I know I think Leighton and his were at that matchup too. So Leighton's been putting in the work, and you may have noticed he's getting some more access there with the non-revenue sports. So he's been working with the athletics department to be able to provide more of that access and more content. So that's good. I mean, we should be some more stuff coming that, we haven't had before.
Yeah. And I'm trying to pull it up here. Gymnastics. So they did lose at North Carolina. They lost against Michigan State. They had their meetup here. They lost by, an eighth or even not even a point. It was 1500ths of a point.
Oh, come on.
I think.
How can
I'm trying to understand the score here. So the score was 196.400 to 196.375. They lost by that much. So
0.025.
Yep. So there's that there. But that scoring they had against UNC, they lost, but that was I think it's showing progress there as a program they've had. Their next gymnastics got a next matchup against George Washington and Raleigh, and then Pitt as well. So thanks for the call out there, Michelle, on that. But having said that, guys, I think that'll wrap up our show tonight. Again, a little shorter tonight, but still really thankful for you guys for tuning in, and really excited to see what State's going to do in basketball tomorrow night for men's basketball against Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Women's basketball, I think their matchup is Thursday night against Miami. And then obviously Saturday is or Friday is going to be the wrestling. Friday's wrestling against Virginia Tech, and then Saturday is going to be NC State versus UNC 5:00. So a lot of big matchups this week. A lot of important matchups, I would say. I think for different reasons. State needs to get this win against Georgia Tech to continue to build their resume. Women's team needs to get this win against Miami because they need some confidence. They need some belief again. And wrestling is a huge rivalry matchup there. So, Michael, you got any closing thoughts?
No. You wrapped it up pretty well. Like you said, men's team, keep winning. Women's team, get back to winning. It's more fun when that happens.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys so much. Aaron, Nathan, Michelle, Benjamin, everybody involved in the comments there. I really appreciate the comments there. It helps to make the show. Jeff. It's really great to have the fans there just to talk. Again, we're fans like you guys. We're just happen to be hosting the show. So we're just like talking and getting everybody engaged. So we will talk to you guys later. Keep tuned out for any new content we have putting out, and be sure to share it with your friends and other NC State fans. We can build this community. And we will talk to you guys later. And as always, go Pack.
Go Pack.